Hey, welcome. Casey here. Let's raise our consciousness together. What are we even doing here on Earth in this experience? I wrote a lot of words here about spirituality. I've just been mulling that over the week. Um, a guy once asked me, "What is spirituality?" I was on a retreat, and I spent the rest of the retreat just thinking about it. Like, what actually is it? I'll get into that in a little bit. But I wanted to talk about like a lack of satisfaction in life. Maybe you've experienced that. Maybe you're experiencing that right now. Like everything's mundane and the same things are happening over and over, same people, same environment, and it's just gets to a boring level. Or maybe you're suffering a lot with life circumstances or thoughts about people, relationships, work. Um, those things can really weigh us down. And there's these cycles that perpetuate and keep us in our comfort zone. In our comfort zone. It's usually not until a moment or a series of moments of misery or deep crisis happens, or pain happens in our life that drives us into something deeper. We live in a life full of constant distraction and instant gratification. So even if you do see a path out of it, or you get the inspiration to do something different, we're quickly bombarded with something around us, an ad, a new show, you know, notifications, uh, kids, friends, everything going on in our lives, and pull us right back into the same dissatisfying loop of work of living. You kind of get to a place of a numbness where you're just like, yeah, this is how life is. You know, I was in a relationship for a really long time that kind of felt like that. Uh, just was not satisfying and not as deep as I wanted it to be. And it's a two-way street, part of it was me, part of it was her. Um, and that was the foundation of everything in my life. And so nothing was ever good enough, like as far as like where I was at. Um, I always wanted more. I needed to get more, needed to go higher, needed to get the promotion, the more money, the new car, the new watch, the more vacations, expectations everywhere, and never really resting in peace, not dying, but resting in peace, having a clear mental state, and being just satisfied with life as it is. There were there were moments like that, especially around my kids. There were moments of sweetness and love and peace and calm. I said prayers and read books with my kids for till they were 5, 6, 7, 8. Kissed them good night every night. Like those were some really sweet times. But beyond that, it was usually around um, drugs, alcohol, or on vacation because you just kind of let loose and you forget about all your problems when you're on vacation. But the day to day, the bills and the mental chaos going on and the dissatisfaction with life was pretty regular. I was always busy, always a to do list, demands on my time and attention from all sides. And that was of my own doing. I signed up for everything, I volunteered for everything. I'm coaching soccer, I'm leading Bible studies, I'm the Sunday school teacher. This is like many years ago. I have a full-time job. I'm starting my own business. I'm volunteering at church in other aspects. I'm helping a friend move this weekend. And I have like and I'm getting my degrees. And I'm maxed out on time, and I'm gonna sign up for more things because there's never enough. And that was just a lot of achievement. I would get, hits of feeling good about myself in that. Maybe you can relate, even if you get into the numb cycle and you're sick of your own shit and you're living day to day and you're like, I think I'll get a college degree and that'll improve my life. It almost wrecked my entire life. Anyways, I'm not going to go into getting my master's degree at 38 years old, but it was super tough. And I had a full-time job and I had 4 kids and I had my own business and I had an acreage to take care of and a wife. And yeah, I was scheduled to the minute around the clock all the time. And that was like the beginning of the end for my life as I knew it then. So yeah, years of this cycle, I was burned out, short of temper, constantly escaping drugs and alcohol. I always tried to be a good dad, show up for my kids, definitely provided for them. I never wanted them to be without. That was like, that's me overcompensating for my childhood. Uh, and also, being kind of like my mom, always just spending money and getting things and thinking that's going to like solve our problems. So, what do you do when life falls apart? What do you do when you have no one? And you know, my my emotions come up all the time, and that's okay. And I've learned to live with it. And these are deep topics and deep subjects for me. And I've it was a deep hole to come out of. So when you can't see straight, you have complete confusion up here. What do you do? When you're overcoming grief and loneliness, what do you do? So just after COVID, much to my own fault, my wife's, my marriage of 16 years fell apart. Um, I was acting up and I didn't want to be in the marriage anymore, and I couldn't disconnect from it. I couldn't let it go. It was just something that I said I would never get divorced. My parents got divorced and it hurt a lot. And I said I'd never get divorced. And I kept holding on. So I had to self-destruct to get out of that. I was coping with alcohol and drugs. She moved out with her parents with my 3 daughters, about 20 something hours away from me. And I just fell apart. And I stopped living life as I knew it at that point, and I gave up. And I was separated from my daughters for about 18 months, completely for a year, and like a couple times in that last 6 months I saw them. So it was a negative spiral that almost cost me my life many times. I was very attached to my children, and I literally could not live without them. So after a long string of negative events and bad decisions, I ended up in jail. I had severe consequences, but I was completely whipped. I went to jail a lot of times that year. I became homeless, and I went from high six figures to and like cars and house, five bedrooms, two master bedrooms, pool out back, jacuzzi tub in the master bedrooms, to just walking the streets with a backpack, you know, kicking rocks. So I did get put in jail in 2021, and that's when I gave up and surrendered and called out to whatever is out there, whatever created us, and that's when things started to change. So since then, I've been deepening my connection to that thing, whatever that is. Consciousness, God. I called it HP, higher power. Universal, universe, creator, source, spirit, nature, Mother Earth, Father, whatever you want to call it, Jesus. That's what I rest in now. And it's whatever this place is. It's in everything that I'm looking at. It's in everything that I feel inside. It's a wholeness, it's a completeness. And so yeah, back to that guy that asked me, what is spirituality? So my first answer, and I wrote this down, was a line between the true and false. A line between illusion and reality. Or maybe it was a bridge between physical and non-physical realms. Some classify it as not religion. All of these could be at least partially correct, but one thing is for sure, I had more questions than answers to that question. Spirituality, what is it? Many months later, I would say that spirituality for me is seeing outer reality as it is, and that only happens when you can see inner reality as it is. It brings me to a more authentic self. It breaks through the illusion of solidity if you go deep enough. Because like in quantum physics, we're learning that everything is just vibration. All material is vibration. Everything is energy. It's just a frequency. And yeah, the little squiggles. An atom is 99% empty, and we're made of atoms. So we're pretty much empty. There's really nothing here. But that is the paradox of spirituality, of this reality that we live in. It's here. We can see it, feel it, taste it, touch it with our senses. But really, when you look down deep, there's nothing there. Interesting. Okay. So, what is illusion? Well, red is only red because we all agree when a certain tone of color shows up, we will use the sound red to identify it. The truth is, it's just light bouncing off the surface and reflecting back only a portion of the light beam. Here's another example of illusion. You drive an old clunky car. You go to the dealer, you get a brand new, expensive, nice car. You had a 2009 Honda, and you went and got a brand new, BMW 500 or something like that. And it's got big rims and a nice stereo, and it's all black. I'm describing the car that I want. Anyways, so now, so you roll it off the lot, and now your state of being is different, isn't it? Your mind, your actions, your thoughts, they're all different. You identify with the car as part of you. When people see you in that car, you're flexing that you leveled up, right? You see people in cars with their stereos on, even if they're clunky junkers, they're identifying with the music, They think they're a different person because of it, but they're not. You haven't changed at all. Nothing about you has changed. Yet you think that it has changed because you're driving a nice car. That's illusion. It's just an illusion. And also the same is true about suffering and misery. We don't know the truth around our suffering and misery. It's just psychological drama between our ears a lot of the time. Spirituality has aspects that never change. It can be called spiritual law, universal law, deep truths, natural laws. These are what make up our reality. And if you want to grab onto anything for stability, these would be it. Because they don't change. We're going to get into that. Everything we experience with our senses, our eyesight, the touch, hearing, smells, tastes, our thoughts, everything is always changing. It's impermanent. Try to grab onto a thought. Try to think one thought for longer than 20, 30 seconds, 5 seconds, 2 seconds. Think one thought. It doesn't take long and it dissipates, and then another thought comes in. So this is the rising and falling of vibration. It's both empty and full at the same time. The highest truth is that we are aware that we are aware. So that's like the beginning of truth for humans. We're aware that we are aware. We're conscious. And nothing can come before that. Because if you're not aware that you're aware, you don't exist. You can't be aware of something that is it's just silence. That's why I'm grasping for words. There's just silence about that. You're aware? Ask yourself, am I aware? Am I aware that I'm aware? Yeah, we are. So when we can be aware that we are aware, we can observe our world around us and let things rise and fall. And that's where meditation comes in. We turn inward and we can focus on our breath or one thing, and we can let everything around us rise and fall. Thoughts come and go, no judgment, no stories. Noises come and go, no judgment, no stories. Tastes come and go, sensations come and go. Perceptions about the world, they come and go. And that's where we can be anchored into. And that's where we can relieve our suffering. Because when we just let life happen as it is, it's pretty peaceful and enjoyable. Then when we get into that state, we can also do things in life without attachment. Back to where I was talking about my kids, I couldn't live without them. Literally, I could not live without them because I was so attached to them. I looked to them for love, connection. They were my purpose. Everything was around my kids. And that's an outward thing. That means I abandoned the inside of myself. And that's what spirituality has brought me back to, being okay with my inside. This was crazy. This was crazy. My nervous system was shot. My thoughts were on redlined all the time, just spinning. And that's sickness. That is a form of sickness. That is disease. It's the beginning of disease. And in this life that I'm living now, I've been able to retrain my mind, catch my thoughts, stop them, redirect them. Through meditation, I've slowed everything down. I've found peace and calm in my life, space up here. I never had any space up there. I was just reactive. Whatever I thought, I did. Whatever I thought, I said. No space. Couldn't watch my thoughts come and go without reacting. It took time to get into meditation. But if you want peace and calm in your life, then start. That's it. And you'll have times where you just love it and you're deep into it, and you'll have times where it's a chore, and that's okay. It's all okay. This is just life, and we're just experimenting, and we're trying different things. Thich Nhat Hanh says, if you learn to suffer, you suffer less. And that's what I'm talking about. When pain comes in life, you wreck your car, you get slapped with a giant bill, and your boss is yelling at you, and your dog's barking, and things are crazy, or maybe you lose a loved one. You just when you can watch the pain come and go, then you can live through it, and you can live through anything, because you're equipped, and you're allowed to cope, and you're allowed to have your emotions come and go. This is being a human. And a lot of our lives have just ignored that part of us, suppressed our emotions, escaped our emotions, and that's where the chaos comes. That's where the confusion comes. That's where the suffering comes, because we're not dealing with anything. Our bodies and minds are meant to deal with things as they happen. And when we can get into that flow of just letting things come and go, that's when our consciousness gets super high, because there's nothing to bounce off anything inside of us. There's nothing solid in there. You're not hanging on to the abandonment when you were a child. When your friend leaves without saying goodbye, boom, it hits that wound from childhood. They didn't say goodbye. Why didn't they say goodbye? Or you say hi to somebody when they're walking by and they snub you. Maybe they didn't even see you, hear you, but it wounds you again, and it hits that stuff inside where I'm not good enough. They didn't even see me. I'm invisible. I'm not being heard. I'm not being seen. These wounds that we have inside, they dictate our behavior. They dictate our thoughts and actions, and spirituality, through meditation and other observation, and through allowing our feelings to come and go, and dealing with our thoughts and memories, through letting go, those things start to dissipate. The power of them stop to dissipate. You start to experience healing. And when you experience healing, your wound heals. And when a wound heals, you don't open it up again, and you don't feel the hurt again. It's healed. It's done. It is done. And that, a lot of that is redirecting mind, redirecting thoughts to I'm okay. Using breath, using meditation, um, living a good life, not causing harm to anyone, not causing harm to yourself, through renunciation, through letting go of addiction to substances, to behaviors, anything that is blocking you, escaping, or suppressing, letting those go. It doesn't have to be all at once, just a little bit at a time. I've also been taught through this to zoom out on my problems. I can get really fixated on a problem, and that takes my whole consciousness, you know. And when I zoom out on my problems, I realize I don't really have any problems. They're just psychological drama, as Sadhguru would say. So I said I can identify with that, with the thoughts about how people perceive me, how I judge myself. Why did I say that? This shirt looks stupid. I hope I did that right. Why are people always hating on me? If I could just shut my mouth. Why haven't they responded? They probably think I'm weird. All these conversations happen in the mind, but none of them are true, and none of them truly matter. If we can work with the mind to think fewer of these thoughts, or think purer thoughts, more high vibration thoughts, higher consciousness thoughts, we can suffer a whole lot less, whether other people are judging us or talking about us is none of our business. What we judge, think, or talk about is our business. So if it doesn't really matter what other people are thinking about you or judging you. What matters is what you're thinking and judging, and letting that go and redirecting to, hey, I accept that person as they are. I don't really appreciate their behavior or how they're treating me, but I accept them how they are, and I'm going to keep my vibration high. Maybe I can love them. Maybe I can show them compassion and empathy, and that can heal them. So judge less and think good thoughts. One more thing about talking and about thoughts. Sadhguru, I mean, he was very crucial to my early on in this. Um, and he said, see if you can say what you're going to say in half the words. I mean, that cut down on my conversations a lot. But it's just a good practice. If you're just going on and on about nonsense, maybe you can just try saying half the words and try to communicate the same thing. It's kind of not related, but it's all good. Uh, Chill out on the idle speak and give your mind and mouth a rest, is what I said. Okay. Therefore, it's not reality that's the problem, it's my thinking. Change my way of thinking and all my problems go away. Wayne Dyer said, change the way you look at things and the things you look at change. Just look at them a little different. A scene can be looked upon by horror by one person, and the same scene can be looked upon with admiration by another. What does that tell us? That it's not the scene that determines our experience, it's the way we look at the scene. Any scene in your life. That person that keeps looking at you at the restaurant, you think that they're like talking shit about you or like, being negative, and really they just think you're beautiful, you know? Like it's just how you think about things. So let those things go more and more. So I'm not saying that you have to like atrocities. I'm saying you can choose to not have an opinion. You can detach. So if you have the power to choose how we view a person, place, or situation, why not choose to like it? Or at least be neutral about it? Because if you dislike something and continue to experience it, you're going to cause yourself to suffer. It reminds me of the AA Serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. What can you change? Can you change a person? Can you change a situation that happened? Those are things that you cannot change. You have to accept them. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. If you're trying to change a situation or a person, you're causing yourself suffering. And then the courage to change the things I can. What can you change? You can change yourself. You can change your attitude, your thoughts, your location, things like that. So the courage to change the things I can and the wisdom to know the difference. What can I change and what can I change? I need that wisdom a lot of times. I can't change the things that people do at work. Can't change the companies that I work for. Can't change my boss. I can suggest things, and if I come at him with judgment and anger, you can really expect things to not go very well, So what is number one, Casey? Take care of your attitude. Take care of your mindset. If you need to take a break, then take a break. If you need to gather your wits and ground and center, then do that. Then come back and talk to him about things. I work on training my mind every day. Nelson Mandela, be the change you want to see in the world. That's the focus. That's a worthy goal. Do, say, and be the person you want to see in the world. So training my mind to be still, to think positively, and sometimes just ignore my mind when it's blabbing on and on about nonsense. Does it always happen that way? No. There are influences and distractions, so I can get off track. Meditation and awareness practice help me quickly recognize when that happens so I can steer the thought ship back to calm waters. I do this through breath, meditation, walking, mindfulness, noticing my body, noticing my body. There was there was a time in my life a few years ago where I was suffering immensely, and I was washing the dishes in my kitchen, and what was happening was I was just replaying something that happened in my mind over and over and over, just thinking, how could this be like that? How could this be like that? How could this be like that? And I noticed it happening, and I just stopped. And I was like, Casey, you're washing dishes. Nothing is happening to you right now. Nobody's poking you with a spear in the side or, lighting you on fire. Nobody's yelling at you. Nothing's happening to you. You're causing your own suffering by letting your mind run and thinking about that scene over and over and over. Just be here with your dishes. Just be here with the suds. Be here with the bubbles. Be here with this bowl. That's being mindful. That's noticing where you're at in space. Be where your feet are. Be where your hands are. Be where what you're looking at. You know, that's mindfulness in action. So also through deep listening, that's something I really try to do. Is like when people are listening or talking, deeply listen. What are they really saying? What do they need from you? Maybe they just need an acknowledgement. Maybe they just need to be heard. Maybe they just need a word of comfort or encouragement, but really being mindful about somebody when they're talking to you. Does it happen perfectly? No. We're just trying to do better. That's all. Through writing beautiful things in my journal and also purging the bad through writing as well. So coming from a place of complete overuse of everything that feels good, squeezing the life out of everything I touched, and being deeply dissatisfied with life as a whole, spiritual practices have helped me resensitize myself to life. I now appreciate the smallest things: a smile from a stranger, clean water, nourishing food. All my needs are met on a daily basis. And with this foundation of appreciation and gratitude, I live a much happier life. Now I can notice when I'm going out and I'm seeking love or happiness or fulfillment, or satisfaction outside. If I'm seeking it outside, it's empty. You might feel okay for a few seconds to a day or something, but maybe an hour, but it's not lasting. But when I slow down and I just sit and I close my eyes and I can be in this space of tranquility and calm and peace, focusing on my breath, feeling my heartbeat. It took a long time to get there, but that slows everything down and I get satisfaction out of that. The deep listening with people, the mindfulness, the slowing down, that's the juice of life. And I say that a lot because I want you to know that that is what matters. Tender moments, mindfully with your family and whatnot. It's not the crazy vacation. It's not the wild concert. You know, those are peaks, and with peaks come valleys. And just being satisfied as a baseline in life, that's where the real peace, calm, and wholeness come from. When gratitude is the baseline, it's easy to notice when we start getting caught up in desire or thoughts of I want more. Yep, just talked about that. Also, I just want to say it's okay. Everything is okay, good and bad, positive and negative. Human life is messy. We don't have to get it all right. We just keep showing up. We have the freedom to make choices, what we want to do, how we want to live, where we want to be, and who we want to share life with. It's a journey from your first breath to your last breath. So give yourself a break, gather your wit and energy, and give it another try. And if something isn't working, try something different. Don't be afraid to question things and think deeply about things and get outside the judgment and craft a life you truly love. People always ask, what is the purpose of life? The purpose of life is to enjoy it fully. Whatever that looks like. It can be hard, there can be suffering, but without those things, you wouldn't know what ease and joy are. So embrace it all with love and compassion. It's an amazing journey. I've been to hell and back multiple times. I've also touched heavenly realms, and I've come to see it all exists in the mind. Spirituality brings mind, body, and soul into alignment, into union. When that happens, divine is present. Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you. Seek first the kingdom." He was telling us to turn inward, that what we seek is already inside of us. So go within and discover what you've been looking for. Namaste.